Did Liverpool's dramatic late loss to Bournemouth expose deeper issues within the squad, or was it just a case of rotten luck? Let's break it down. The matchup on 24th Jan 2026 between Bournemouth and Liverpool was nothing short of chaotic. My prediction for this game was that Liverpool wouldn't win, and I almost nailed it with a 2-2 scoreline, which was shattered in the final seconds of stoppage time by a last-gasp goal. Liverpool actually came back from 2 goals down to equalise, and it didn't seem like the players were trying to undermine the coach. In fact, the performance was much better than their away game against Tottenham earlier this season. Unlike Tottenham, Liverpool wasn't being dragged around by the opposition's pace. They managed to slow the game down, but just like Tottenham, they suffered a late defeat, conceding a last-minute winner. Bournemouth was also missing Antoine Semenyo, who could have made a difference. Liverpool indeed lacked a bit of luck in this match. During stoppage time, Liverpool was dominating, but Bournemouth snatched a throw-in, and the referee allowed them to play it even after the added time was up. That's where luck was missing. Of course, Virgil van Dijk being easily brushed aside in that moment also highlighted his age-related decline. Liverpool conceded the first goal from a set-piece, which was disappointing, and then chaos ensued. On the other side, Hugo Ekitiké's positioning in front of the goal was a bit comical. He was inside the goal, so how could he defend an open goal? In the end, it was a messy loss, with Liverpool lacking both luck and fitness. The rotation was minimal, showing a lack of depth, and the bench players weren't particularly reliable. Physical fitness was poor, and by the late stages, Liverpool was vulnerable to counter-attacks. As for rotation, you might ask why Curtis Jones wasn't rotated more. But Liverpool did manage to control the game overall. Perhaps the plan was to use more technical midfielders to maintain the tempo and prevent Bournemouth from playing their fast-paced game. You know, going toe-to-toe with Bournemouth at their home ground is suicidal. They're fast and physically strong. So slowing the game down wasn't a bad tactic, and they executed it reasonably well. You might wonder, even if the pace was slowed, how did Bournemouth manage to score 2 goals? Well, those goals weren't really about tactics, they were more about bad luck. For example, the second goal seemed like Milos Kerkez wasn't quick enough or didn't react in time, but he was actually half a step too late in positioning. If this were Van Dijk 5 or 6 years ago, with his quick reactions and positional awareness, he would have cleared it. But now, with his speed declining, there's not much he can do. It looked like offside, but the semi-automatic VAR system didn't flag it. Additionally, was Alisson's decision to rush out necessary? The angle was narrow, and in the second half, Bournemouth couldn't even get a shot off because the keeper stayed in goal. When the keeper comes out, it teaches the opponent how to shoot. It's a bit of a responsibility. The biggest stroke of bad luck was Joe Gomez's injury, which left Liverpool a man down at a crucial moment. During the transition period when Gomez was substituted, Bournemouth exploited the gap in midfield and scored. Gomez got injured around the 25th minute, and within about 5 minutes Liverpool conceded. As for why Gomez got injured, it was partly due to Van Dijk. He suddenly went for a so-called eye defence, failing to clear the ball cleanly and allowing the opponent to progress. At that point, Bournemouth hadn't really built up much pressure. It was just a long ball hoping for something. But they managed to link up with a ground cross that led to a sure goal situation. Van Dijk's weak defending indirectly led to Gomez's injury. Both conceded goals were somewhat related to Van Dijk, though he did redeem himself later with a corner goal. Liverpool's 2 goals came from set pieces, as their open play was lacking. So, how did Liverpool play? A 4-2-2-2 formation, which isn't far from a 4-3-1-2, basically relying on the 2 forwards to provide the attacking thrust. But Cody Gakpo isn't fast enough, and Mohamed Salah couldn't catch up with the ball. Neither of them excels in aerial duels. The result was, Liverpool wasn't quick enough for fast transitions, couldn't hold and counter effectively, and struggled against a compact defence. To break down a packed defence, you need wingers or speedsters to stretch the play, but Liverpool lacked both. Without speed or wingers, they were forced back into their so-called champion mode of central penetration. Against a compact defence, if you don't stretch the play, you're left with constant floating movements looking for one-on-one opportunities. Why float? Because if you don't stretch the play, the middle gets crowded, making it hard to beat 2 or 3 defenders. You have to find those rare one-on-one moments. Liverpool tried this approach, but even when they found space, did they have the players to exploit it? Manchester City beat Wolves with players like Semedo or Semenyo who can burst through. Liverpool didn't have that. Players like Luis Diaz and Gakpo aren't strong one-on-one types. They rely on organisation, positioning and creating space. This is typical of champion mode possession-based play. That's how they were meant to be used, but this season, Salah has declined significantly, and both flanks are ineffective. Rio Ngumoha was also rushed into the lineup. Suddenly, the entire formation lacks wingers, and with their form dipping, the plan to rely on central technical play was disrupted. Combined with an injury crisis, whatever tactics, positioning or structure Liverpool tried ended in a situation where they struggled to attack or counter. Whether it was fast transitions, holding and countering, or facing a compact defence, Liverpool lacked the tools to succeed. Today's game against Bournemouth was a perfect example. At best, Liverpool occasionally stretched the play, calling players to the half space and then playing direct passes into the box. This kind of play doesn't require extremely fast wingers or midfielders overlapping at high speed, but it's only effective intermittently and not often enough. Beyond that, you need wingers who can break through to add depth against a compact defence. Against Marseille, Liverpool scored 3 goals on counter-attacks, but the first 2 were ultimately from set pieces and messy situations. The Premier League is harder to navigate. So why did the summer plans fall apart? Suddenly, there were no wingers. Why do I constantly emphasize buying wingers and speedsters? Because you need them to execute tactics. Without speed or wingers, fast transitions, holding and countering, and breaking down compact defenses are impossible, no matter who the coach is. For example, Spain's 4-6-0 formation in the 2012 Euros, which relied entirely on possession without speed, was risky. They narrowly won the final because Italy was down to 10 men. When they tried the same approach in 2014, they crashed out in the group stage. They hadn't been tested in 2012, but 2014's group of death exposed their flaws. In 2018, against Russia, they lost on penalties. Players like Iniesta, David Silva, and Xavi were top class, but asking them to break through one-on-one wasn't their strength. They needed wingers to stretch the play and use their organisation and passing to break down defences, not brute force like Semedo or Semenyo. Liverpool is in the same boat right now. Their players weren't bought for this style, but with no wingers, they're forced to float. Manchester City is better off, having bought new speedsters. Liverpool didn't. So what's the solution? There isn't much. Even if you push Rio Ngumoha onto the field, it didn't help much. He had some speed, won a free kick to equalise 2-2, but otherwise contributed little and played a part in a costly counter-attack in the 83rd minute. Rotation capability and bench strength are lacking. The starting lineup can only manage this floating approach, but it's not effective. In the end, Liverpool relied on set pieces. They even beat Real Madrid that way. Both goals today came from set pieces. But looking at the season as a whole, Liverpool's corner kicks aren't particularly impressive. Even Van Dijk isn't at his best in the air. Dominique Szoboszlai is one of the best free kick takers in the league, but free kicks are harder to execute than corners due to fewer opportunities and floating positions. Today, Liverpool tried some variations, like Salah making a dummy run for Szoboszlai to shoot from distance, but you can't keep coming up with new tricks. Manchester United, in their 3-4-3 phase, tried creative set pieces to fill gaps, but those ideas dried up within a week. So, given Liverpool's current state, with no winter signings, there's no way out, no tactics work. What's the point of changing coaches? Would bringing in Xabi Alonso help? He's also about possession play, but ultimately, you need to break through. Against compact defences, you either stretch the play or float, neither of which Liverpool can do. Just constantly lobbing high balls. Ekitike's heading isn't particularly strong. He's tall, maybe slightly better than Alexander Isak, but he's no aerial dominator. Darwin Núñez was sold, and Ekitike is more of a technical player suited for central possession play. There's also no material for the coach to switch to a 5-man defense. Carlo Ancelotti is great at adapting to his resources, but when there's nothing to adapt with, what's the plan? No signings are expected soon, and the best hope is for Isak to recover and play a 4-3-1-2 formation, focusing on holding and countering. But injuries have taken a toll, and Isak won't return until April. That's why I previously said, if Liverpool could make signings in winter and return to their tactics, things would be fine. Failing that is problematic. Other teams sign 2 players and get back on track. Liverpool didn't sign anyone, so they're stuck. The biggest issue isn't what they bought this season, but the over-reliance on veterans without bringing in capable backups, especially Salah, who has no replacement ready to step in. It's a transfer misstep by the board, not the coach's fault. Firing the coach to cover up these mistakes is irresponsible, evasive and unethical, and it might cost them a promising young coach. Now there's no solution. Not buying means Liverpool could keep sliding, potentially missing out on the top 5 and Champions League. Earlier, I said not to worry because I thought they'd make signings. Now, seeing they haven't, tactics are failing. But Liverpool is stubborn, they won't buy, so we'll have to accept this season for what it is. Firing the coach won't help. Another coach would face the same issues. It's better to save money and wait for the summer to make the right purchases. The cost might be missing out on the Champions League. But Liverpool has a strong foundation. They can survive 1 year without CL football. Perhaps in the summer they could fire the coach, buy 3 fast wingers and bring in Alonso. That could work, but it wouldn't be fair to the current coach. Besides, is Alonso's style the champion mode? He's tried 4-4-2, 5-man defenses, and 4-3-3, but his ultimate style is still undefined. So, do you fire the coach and give Alonso new players in the summer, or stick with the current coach and buy the right wingers first? Which option seems more stable? Thanks for tuning in. Your support means the world. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe for more insights into the Premier League.